Hey everybody, it's Jason McClaren with the Leadership Loading Podcast, and today we're talking about leadership and luxury construction. I know it's probably a far reach there. You're like, what does this have to do with leadership? But being myself as a former firefighter and Air Force veteran, I just want to talk to our guest today about some project management that she does and how that kind of relates to leadership, and hear a little bit about her business, how she's brought it up from the ground up, basically. And our guest is Julia Stark. She's the founder and managing director of Star Projects, which is a independent project management consultancy based in London. And you will hear her accent in a minute. So Star Projects provides first-class service to private and residential luxury owners and occupiers, and specializing obviously in clients at the every step of their renovation. So Julia, welcome to the show.
Hi, hello.
Yeah, so like I said, you're a project manager. So can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got into project management?
Well, funny enough, my background was I wanted to be an architect and a designer, but unfortunately, I failed the drawings exams. So I ran away from my country of origin, from Poland, back to the UK. I came over for summer 12 years ago, and that summer hasn't come to an end yet. So that's really how I got into this country. Then I was actually looking for an office job, something, around uh, more of an admin job. And I found a junior project manager position back then, which I thought would be, an interesting option for a career path. I applied, I got the job. And then I realized that the office was actually on a site, on a construction site. And that's how I started in construction. The role was really interesting because I got to really understand all of the nitty-gritty details of running a residential project. It was pretty much me on site with the builders, running around them, trying to, make orders and plan ahead the next week and the week after and the month ahead. And definitely that was a big challenge. But yeah, that's really how it all started. I fall in love with that, and that's what I'm really doing until today.
Definitely. I think a lot of our listeners can relate to that because really project leadership is the art. I call it the art and science of steering the team, like you were mentioning, all the contractors and that sort of thing, towards the delivery of the project at the end. And so there's a lot of leadership skills you have to implement, and we can talk about those as we get further into this. But um, it's fascinating the way you came into it and kind of just got into the niche on that side of the project.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, with project management and leadership, the most kind of the similar path of two of those, skills, to be fair, is the fact that you have to be able to understand the people you're working with and be able to pull the best out of them. Because it's all good and well to say I'm going to change the team, or just go somewhere else or do loads of stuff, but it's not really a long-term solution. You have to be able to adapt and just pull the best skills out of the people that you're actually working with.
Definitely. And do you think that's why residential or commercial projects have to have a project manager? They can't just use somebody in house most of the time. They need somebody that has that set of skills.
I mean, to be fair, if you look, because I work in the high-end residential sector, if you look on the other end of the spectrum into the lower end of resi, so anybody doing the work as in extension or changing the kitchen or even renovating their bathroom, they don't usually even realize they do the project management themselves, right? They run around all the builders, they run around choosing everything, choosing the tiles, choosing the taps, whatever it might be, making snag lists or whatever they're not happy with, then chasing the builders to come and fix all of those things. It's quite a stressful job. And to be fair, if you count the amount of time that people invest into it, just so they come into the conclusion at the end, oh my God, it was traumatizing, I'm never doing it again. It just proves that, in the high-end residential, where people get nowhere near that set of involvement into the project, and they just outsource it to project managers like myself. It kind of shows how smart it is in a way, because if you don't really enjoy everything involved in the construction, it's not only the nice, choosing the wallpaper, but it's also, making sure that the slab is thick enough and making sure the building control signed it off. So, you can have somebody else doing everything that you don't really enjoy doing, so that you can do only those little bits that you like.
Yeah, and like you said, it's definitely different when you're dealing with regular everyday construction compared to upper end construction. And then my background's in the commercial, not real estate, sorry, commercial type of construction, usually healthcare and higher education. So, the leadership side of project management, kind of leaning into that, you really are a liaison, and you're having to network with all these different trades, and probably on your side on the trades, but also with the city and the fire marshal, or the all these different entities and different companies. How do you think that those roles and responsibilities help as a project manager?
I mean, we call all of those people the stakeholders. So basically, everybody who has a stake, whether it's the neighbor, the lady across the street, the fire brigade who might be involved in the fire strategy of the building, whether it's commercial or residential or any other project. You have to manage them. You have to be able to communicate with them effectively and negotiate to a degree the outcomes that you can provide. It's a little bit easier when it comes to residential work, but at the same time, it's not, because especially in high-end resi, it's a lot of hand holding and explaining to people who have not much to do with the construction day-to-day work. They don't really understand regulations, they don't really understand licenses, they don't really understand the outcomes that we're proposing. So there's a lot of explaining, and there's a lot of educational work to be done. Some people like it, other people don't. I mean, in the commercial world, usually there's loads of people involved, but they're professionals. They know what we're talking about. They understand it's their everyday life. That's what they deal with. So on that front, it's a little bit different, but not that much, I would say. It's still, quite challenging, and you have to consider everybody's business all the time.
Yeah, definitely. And the stakeholders, that's, what we we're talking about earlier. And sometimes that can be like herding cats, especially if you have like a big, we call it owner, architect, and contractor meeting, OAC meeting, trying to get everybody's feedback and kind of balance the scales and make sure that everybody's getting what they want, but also you're not going over budget, or you're not going against some kind of code requirement or design element that we have to include. I think that's kind of where the leadership skills come in, because it's a lot of balancing what everybody wants, but kind of building that stakeholder
middle ground.
Yeah, the middle ground, so that
I mean, another point to mention as well is, the more designers you've got, as in having interior designers, kitchen designers, mechanical designers, electrical designers, AV consultants, all of those people, the more of them you've got, the more you have to be able to manage them, because everybody wants to chip in, they 2 cents worth of, and everybody wants to have a say, and everybody feels that what they're saying is the most important. So then, you might end up giving conflicting information out there, and the outcome that you thought you'll get is not always what you actually do.
Definitely. And I was just walking a site the other day, and the resident wanted to change out, or the tenant wanted to change a door to an outward swing door, and me and the architect were just looking at each other like, you can't do that. But we couldn't just tell them that in the hallway, but we're like, you're gonna open it right into the egress path, but that's just a different thing. So in London, do y'all have like project management certifications, and obviously you probably have like school you can go to, but like here in the States, I know we have like the PMP certification. Do you have a similar thing there?
No, funny enough, we have absolutely no certification. We have no licensing whatsoever. So in UK, generally, anybody can say, I'm going to be a contractor tomorrow. I pay £13 for setting up a company, which is about $16, I'd say.
Right.
You do it online, and tomorrow you're a construction company.
Oh
Uh,
gosh.
but we do. I mean, especially in the sector that I work, there's a lot of due diligence going on. So people do check on people. There's loads of accreditations happening in the background. There's RICS, which is the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, that helps kind of, fish out those people who are genuine and are professionals in the field, rather than just, some dodgy people trying to make some money
Yeah.
on the side.
We,
So there are institutions that help to organize these types of professions, but there's no particular, licensing required.
yeah, no, I don't think it's required here in the States. I think it's a, preferred thing, especially if you're going to work for a established firm. Um, I know several project managers that don't have that certification. I think they just come up through either the interior design field, or they maybe were an architect or are an architect, and they go that way. But yeah, for the listeners, like I said, there is a certification for it in the States, and looks like you can work on stuff there in the London area. But that just shows that you don't have to have the certification, or you don't have to have that background. You can start off, like you did, Julia, and just get into the industry and start learning how everything works, and then work your way up the ladder, or in your case, you start your own business. And so I think that's a testament to all the options that are out there without having to take on student loan debt, or to, go to some kind of school for that type of thing.
Definitely. I mean, there's loads of, mentorship down here. Like I mentioned, RICS, you can always apply to, uh, I think it's one of it's called APC. It's one of the trainings they offer. So I think it takes about 24 months. So that they offer you a help of a counselor who's actually guiding you through the process. Make sure you follow the standards. Make sure the quality of the work that you deliver is actually the highest quality, complying with the requirements. So there's loads of stuff that can be done to make sure you are the top of the top, right? And there's loads of things you can do to improve your skills. There's loads of things, there's loads of organizations that actually help to be one of those top people in the industry. And I always believe that there's loads of people like me who are always happy to help, who are always open to a conversation with anybody wanting to start their journey in the industry. And it doesn't hurt to ask for help.
Yeah, I agree with that. Not hurting asking for help. And that's the nonprofit that runs this podcast, Go Heroes. That's what we're there for. People can just upload their resume. We'll look at it, help them out. Same thing with connecting them with people that we know in the industry. So that's a great solution there. So, I saw y'all also do some contract administration. Is that more related to projects, or is that a separate
Oh,
service?
so the contract administration, it's part of so the process that we go through here in the UK basically is that the way we work is you put together a brief for the client, which means essentially what it is they want to do, what are their ultimate goals, whether it's a certain budget, whether it's the time scale that they want to be in the house, whether it's the highest quality of whatever it is that they might be doing. Then we go through the initial design, which is all of the licensing, all of the permissions. There's about 20,000 of listed buildings here in London. So, there might be some heritage statements required. There might be a licensing from the British Heritage required, loads of things. Depending on the actual history of the building, there might be, the different documentation. We go through that. So I offer the design management as well in that sense, because loads of people do loads of other things. It does not always, meet and does not always make sense at the end. So it's always good to, keep an eye that everybody's on the same page. Then once the final design and detailed design is completed, we go through the tender to actually choose the contractor. It's usually a competitive tender, which means everybody gets to price the work based on the available information and submit the best quote they can offer. That's how we choose the contractor here. And then whoever the contractor gets chosen, we go into contract with them. It's usually a JCT form of contract. And then this contract form requires an administrator who always oversees both parties. So how much work has been done against how much money they've applied for every month. There is loads of, additional claims and stuff that's going on. If there are any delays, they can apply for an extension of time that then gets reviewed by the contract administrator, whether it's legitimate and the reasons are correct or not. It might be, a delay in payment. Then we would be chasing the client. Why have they not paid? Whether, there is a reason for that and how do we act upon that? So this is pretty much what the contract administration is right here.
Very detailed and very task specific, it sounds like.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads of ways of doing things, a bit easier and a bit shorter. But the way we do it here is pretty much, there's been loads of studies on it from 70s, I think. And these kind of standard forms of contracts, they've been tried and tested. And if something goes wrong, then they protect you the best. They give you loads of ways to actually action rather than end up, either in debt or getting argued and sued and going into litigation. I think on that front, and in terms of, solving construction disputes, UK is really well set up.
Yeah, and I've seen some on Netflix. There's like these building shows, and they've done some episodes there in the UK. Disputes on building, how people have built things the wrong way or something, and it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So our last question we always ask is, what's your 1 minute leadership tip? If you're in an elevator and you ran into somebody very interesting, you just needed to give them 1 quick minute of leadership advice, what would it be?
Well, my tip always is just try to understand the other side. Do not discount them just because you don't agree with them, and just try to pull the best you can out of them, because you'll be surprised. Never undermine anybody. You'll be surprised that sometimes that little girl in the corner could be the best piece of gold you've ever found.
Definitely. I think, just running into people in everyday life, I always say treat everyone as you want to be treated. And being in the industry I work in, I can walk down the hall and run into someone that's a minimum wage employee, and I could run into the CEO the next step, and everybody's treated the same. And so especially with customers and that sort of thing, you want to treat everybody with value.
Absolutely. And just offer them the time and offer them the help if they ever need it, because you never know when it's going to get back to you and in what form.
Definitely. So how can the listeners find you if they want to connect with you?
Well, I'm pretty much on most of the social media. They can find me on LinkedIn under my full name, or they can have a look on my website, starprojects.london. And yeah, have a look around and connect with me there.
Sounds good. And we'll put the links in the show notes, and we'll connect with you then.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on the show.